Hello everyone and welcome to my last round of the Manufacturers Cup, and this was Interlagos in Group 3. And yeah, I don't know what to say about this one, and this is actually how it started. Started with not a great qualifying session in my first race. I was in the second split, which kind of ruined all of my chances of getting a decent qualifying lap. But, I mean, this car had some straight line speed, so I thought it was gonna be okay. Starting in P12 in this one, 30.544, which I did. And I thought maybe there was gonna be a possibility of doing something in here and just trying to, you know, always trying to do the maximum and pull maximum out of the car. Okay, first one, it wasn't really a move. I just broke a little bit later than I kind of normally would. And, you know, on the outside, I actually managed to get one place in this turn. It was a bit of a contact, but I watched the replay and I think that was an unforced mistake because he lost the control
I don't think it was even
a lot after we touched. Okay, and then after this one, after the first lap, I kind of got closer to Matu, who was in P11, and actually now he's in P11. I'm promoted up to P10, so it was actually looking like a good start, but I was still in P10. I really wanted to get a little bit more out of this one, and he kind of stayed a little bit closer than I expected. And here I didn't close this gap, I really didn't even intend it to, and he just decided to do a little dive down the inside. But
what's going on with
I watched the replay, and I think it was just an evasive action, so he wasn't really trying to go for a move, but he just broke a lot later than I did. I mean, this car, or actually my car, the Ford GT, it's not really good on braking. It's kind of really fast in the straight line, but otherwise it's not really that great car. I mean, on Interlagos it was kind of okay. So I decided maybe I can do a different strategy. I put in the softs and we will do a two-stopper. Usually, or if you want to call it, like, the best strategy out here was to do a one-stop. That's exactly what I found out later. In GT3 and GT2, you should have been pulling a no-stop, like putting the hearts on, running a no-stopper. But in GT1, we had 30 laps and you wanted to do a one-stop race. And I thought about, okay, maybe it was going to be like, okay, if I do a two-stopper, but you can see the gap now to the front. It was 30 seconds, and by the time that I got into my second stop, it was 17. So I got some time, but it wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough. I should have been a lot faster at that point, and maybe then it could have worked out. But okay, once again going on Matu for that P11 this time, not a P10. Maybe I should have stayed and doing the one stop, but I mean, it's fine. Okay, going for this one, and this is where I kind of thought about, okay, should I go for a move, shouldn't I? Should I just stay behind? Maybe he's gonna make a mistake. What to do? And he covered down the inside, which gave me a lot of space to kind of do a cutback, which wasn't really a cutback, but it gave me a little bit more speed onto this little straight. So I decided to go. Actually, he covered down the inside. I decided to go on the outside of this one and just put my tire. Yeah, just putting my tire onto that Astro, and this is kind of where I ended up my first run. So yeah, it could have been worse, but actually it could have been worse. It was actually kind of worse than I expected, but okay. Going for the second one, and in the second race I qualified reasonably well, so I did a fairly decent lap time, which in the previous race would have put me into the top 5, but here it was only P13, but this was the top split, so we had a little bit more points. So 221 for P13, and I said to myself, if I managed to get in like the top 10, I would be happy. So Lopez in front of me, I gave him a little tap. I didn't really want to go for a move like I did in the previous race, because I know some people will make mistakes eventually, and I'm just trying to avoid any trouble so far. So we are going in first turn, and it was fairly clean, not for everyone. It wasn't really clean for the Italians, so this is where I got my first place. So we are into P12, and I really wanted to see where can I push this car. Hard tires, not the best for this one. I had to be careful over the curbs. It wasn't really that good. I mean, I really tried to, you know, do the maximum out of the car and really get the most out of every single corner. But here you can see really the difference in cars. Like, they had so much pace in this middle section. I had so much so much more top speed. It was just incredible. So I got a bit of a tap from behind, nothing too much, and yeah, I almost lost this place to Antonio, who was really pushing, and he really tried to get the most out of his own race because he really didn't get the great qualifying session, but I think he was just having some fun in this one, really didn't want to put the qualifying lap. So we are into P12, onto the straight, which is usually where I can get the most out of my car. A bit of a slide on the way out of this one, and this is where I, you know, try to get always the most, but you know, on hard tires it's really difficult to keep it onto the track. So they're going too wide into the first turn, and I just trying to mind my own business, nothing too much. And I can see Lopez was kind of out of position, so maybe in the next section I can go for a move. And I know if I'm this close, I can probably go for a move. So that's exactly what I did. So pulling down the inside of this turn, and I think I wasn't really braking that well, and once again I had a little hit from behind, which meant that I pushed Lopez onto the outside of this track, which once again means he lost a couple of places in just that corner. So it was a little push. I think I could have given him enough space if there wasn't a little contact from behind, and yeah, getting one place, losing one place. But here, this is a very interesting one. So I had a bit of a push from behind. It was nothing too much. He was much quicker than me at this point, and I don't think it really compromised my line, except for maybe this one. And I watched a replay. I mean, I wanted to know what happened in here, and he broke, but I don't think he ever wanted to brake to stop his car. So you can be the judge, guys, but I think that was kind of retaliation of what happened in the previous one, which wasn't completely my fault. But I mean, I was into last place on the grid until lap number 4, when Jesus in front of me got a bit of a penalty, and this is like the worst braking, or it's kind of a braking zone. When you serve your penalty, the car kind of stops for just about a half a second to a second, and by the time you get to kind of the end of the final stretch, you're losing like 1.5 with a half a second penalty. So that's exactly what happened to the guy in front of me. We were just staying in close, we not really doing that much, and you can see how big of that difference this is. So 1 second is more like 2.5 or maybe even 3 seconds. And really nothing much was going on until lap 16, where I decided to get into the pits. And this was actually the best thing that I did in this one. So kind of trying to do an undercut. I mean, I knew the tires weren't really that great doing 14 laps on those soft tires, and it was going to be a kind of a survival mission till the end. And I thought to myself, maybe, you know what, I'm going to try, whatever happens, and I did that undercut, and now was in front of Lopez into P12. So this was actually looking a little bit better, and then somehow I started catching up to the guys up in front, and I noticed later that Hungarian was on a different strategy. He was running the mediums. So mediums were not really that great. I think he just wanted to get a little bit more pace out of the car in the later parts of this race, but softs were much better, and doing a hard soft strategy was a lot better than doing just a hard and medium. That was pretty much it. I mean, I was into P10, a couple of other guys pitted in the meantime until this point, and then I realized, okay, these guys are fighting, and Danny made a little mistake going a bit too wide, and then I was into that top 10 position, P9 at this point, and you know, I kind of set my goal to finish in the top 10, and I was kind of happy with the race and how this race was going on, especially knowing the true pace of my car, and you know, really knowing that this car had absolutely no cornering ability. These tires were absolutely dead, and the same set. I don't know how I made it across the finish line, but this was P9. And I was quite happy with the overall results, which gave me 295 points, getting me the win. I actually won for it, and really didn't qualify for a live event, but at least I won my manufacturer, which was a nice thing in the end. So getting 12 million credits. So this was probably the most credits that I ever won in this game. 12 million, and that was my season. Finishing top 1 for 4, not really qualifying, but we'll see what can I do in the next one. So guys, until the next one, bye.